Thank you. Hello, Cozy Croissant. We are Team 15, and we are going to do a quick debrief of the penetration testing we just conducted on your company. So, for those unaware, I am Jeffrey DeVincent. I am the team lead here at the Cozy Croissant, at the Team 15.
I am Matthew McKeever. I am the team co-lead. I'm Harrison Keating. I'm our network analyst.
My name is Colton Knight. I am our constants analyst.
I'm Noah. I'm the Windows analyst.
And I am Zach. I am our Linux analyst.
Thank you. So today we are going to go over the methodology and how we both scored and discovered vulnerabilities on your network, as well as going over key findings that we believe are noteworthy in your environment. We will also talk about how what we found impacts the firm in terms of local, federal, and governance body regulations, and as well as talk about next steps your firm can take, both in terms of system remediations as well as policy changes to improve the security posture of the company. So the penetration test began on Friday, January 13th at 9:45 a.m. and ended at January 14th the following day at 5:45 p.m. We aim to evaluate the security posture of both the guest and corporate network of the Cozy Croissant Hotel, hotel infrastructure, and also to ensure the security, that is the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of systems and data for both customers and employees alike. We also, following up from our Q4 2022 penetration test, we are reevaluating vulnerabilities we found in your network previously to see what you have done right and what you have fixed, and let you know what still needs to be done.
So first we're going to talk a little bit about the network and how we approach the engagement. So we developed a network map and a list of hosts to organize our findings. As you can see at the top, we had a network externally that we attacked from to simulate an external actor. And then we were penetration testing the guest network that contained kiosks and the corporate network that contained sensitive internal assets. Next, we're going to talk a little about our methodology and how we approach the penetration test.
So basically we broke it down into a series of steps. We first got your RFP and looked at what your requirements were and what you were looking to get out of it. We then started doing reconnaissance on you, doing research on your websites, looking at things employees might have leaked, things like that. Then once we were in your environment, we started looking for vulnerabilities that were exploitable, and then exploited them to pivot and get as much access as we could, so we could find as many vulnerabilities as possible to allow you to remediate them. We split up our scoring on a scale of 0 to 10. A scale of 0 to 10, informational being unlikely to cause any sort of security incident, critical basically being a full compromise remotely. We evaluate risk. One moment. There. We evaluate risk using this matrix. Basically, it's a factor of how severe the vulnerability is compared to how likely it is to actually be exploited by a malicious actor.
Next, I would like to discuss some of the findings that we discovered on your network. Here we can see a representation of the vulnerabilities that we previously found on the network that you have have remained unresolved. The number of vulnerabilities that we have seen that have been fixed, and then finally we have the number of new vulnerabilities that we discovered on the network during this penetration test compared to the previous engagement we had. And then here we have a breakdown of the different vulnerabilities that we found. As you can see, there is a vast majority of vulnerabilities that can highly compromise the network and confidentiality of the employee and customer data.
So I will now talk to you about the key findings that we found, and we compiled a top 3 list of the most critical vulnerabilities we found in the network. So starting with the main user passwords and Active Directory comments, Essentially what that means is that while we were compromising the network, we found that a lot of the user accounts within the domain had their plain text passwords stored in the descriptions of their accounts, and any user is able to view that. So that can be used as a vector to elevate privileges or become network administrators or anything like that. So that was one vector we used to obtain complete control of the network. The next one is code execution via the secure administration password application. We found that in the guest network on all the kiosks, as well as some of the other critical infrastructures in the corporate network, such as the certificate authority, which deals with a lot of the infrastructure. And we found that in this application, there is a feature that allowed command execution via a local access. So you can connect to this port listening, and you're able to run commands. And the issue with that is that this application was running as NT authority system, which is the highest amount of permission possible in the Windows operating system. So essentially, you're able to run commands at the highest permission possible, so that can be used as a vector to elevate your privileges, and we did as such. Lastly, we have guessable admin and database passwords. So we were able to brute force and crack a lot of the web applications and database admin or root account passwords, which allowed us to dump a lot of customer PII, which has a lot of compliance violations and can result in a lot of customer distrust and fines.
So with all those findings that we were able to discover on your network, we want to talk to you about compliance. Now, when we do the penetration test, it's very important that we have these findings and these vulnerabilities in the network, but what do they mean to you, the Cozy Croissant? Well, a lot of it has to play into what local and government compliance has for cybersecurity. Since you have sensitive information such as credit cards, addresses, names, phone numbers, things that can be used to uniquely identify an individual stored across your systems, it's important that you store and secure that data very well. Some of these compliances are the GDPR, CCPA, the Nevada Chapter 630 Section A, and of course PCI DSS. If you fail to comply with these different compliance laws, there will be fines that can be incurred, and you also can open yourselves up to incur liability. So some of the next steps that that we recommend that you take to ensure compliance, the first one on the list is a password policy. If you guys have a secure password, ideally 12 digits or longer, that have secure complexity, strength, they're not using easy to guess words, this will ensure that an attacker cannot just easily log on to any machine in your system. The second thing we recommend is encrypting personal data. So again, those credit card information, those addresses, if we can encrypt them, that ensures that even if someone were to get onto your system, it would be very hard to access that information. Also, we want to do principle of least privilege. This sounds complicated, but it all really means that all of your systems, like the web apps, the kiosks, if you can run them with the least amount of privileges required, then your whole network is going to be a lot safer. Harrison.
So our next suggested remediation is network segmentation. So network segmentation involves controlling which hosts on a network are allowed to talk to each other. One of our major findings during the penetration test was that the kiosks in the guest network were able to talk to critical system infrastructure in the corporate network, and that access is not required and opens you up to a lot of risk. Secondly, we would recommend updating important systems. We found a lot of missing security patches, especially on the Windows system, that would allow a lot of vulnerabilities that have been around for a long time and be very easy to resolve. And finally, we'd recommend improving firewall and antivirus on the hosts themselves. If you follow these remediations, this will resolve the findings that we talked about in the previous slide, as well as the majority of our remaining findings. This concludes our briefing. Are there any questions?
Yes, thank you all. Very, very clear. Do you think that if we were to move to the cloud, we could address these issues?
So some of the issues would be resolved for moving them to the cloud, as a lot of cloud service providers will maintain stuff like automatically patching stuff. However, keep in mind stuff like password policies is still up to the company who is setting it up, and that you'll most likely still need to keep some things on-premise, especially since the on-premises domain that you already have and the cloud equivalent, Azure AD, are fundamentally different technologies.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have one question about the impact. You talk about important systems, but what are they? patchy or a bit important